Uh-oh. I just started the recording. I didn't
Okay,
mean to. Yeah, here we go.
that's okay.
Okay, so hey everyone, it's Tracey from Adventure 50. And this is Jenny, who's a senior living expert. And we just tried to do StreamYard, which I signed up for to avoid Zoom. But here we are. We're on Zoom
Here we are.
because we had too much of a lag with StreamYard. So we're giving each other grace and because we're new to this technology thing. So we'll figure it out next time because I'm going to have Jenny on a lot more. So, Jenny, why don't you tell us about
Oh,
yourself
thank
and
you.
what you do?
Absolutely. And, as I was starting to say in StreamYard, I love following you and I'm so honored to be here. So thank you so much. I love watching your adventures. And, I know that you can really relate to what I do. And I own a senior living placement company. I've worked in this industry for 25 years and I've had my company for almost six. And I am so passionate about seniors and helping them, whatever stage they're at in life, especially if that means transitioning to a new community or senior living place, I should say. But also the like adult children, there's so many of us going through this right now, and the caregiver burnout and the caregiver stress. Everybody's situation is so unique. There's no blanket, you know, fix for everybody. And that's what I really try to do. We touched on a little bit, and I know we'll talk about it, finances, and everybody's situation is so different that it
Mhm.
really requires holding and just finding the best scenario for everybody.
Right. Well, and that's why, I have a van channel, but I always say
I
it's
love
not about the van, it's about the girl in the van. And so for me, as far as how this correlates is, I am my mom's power of attorney. I'm her caregiver. I'm her sole like caregiver now. And, for me to leave to be able to travel during the winter, um, I need somebody. I still like, you know, do her medication, you know what I mean, order
Yeah.
that and everything, do all of her appointments. But Jenny, the PCA, which I found right before I left, are like my feet, you know.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
I know we want to kind of start from the beginning because I'm going to have you on a lot more because
Oh,
it's a
thank you.
process. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot to
Okay.
learn.
There's so much. And I think that's one of the things that frustrates me the most. And you even saw a little bit of it, just trying to go through it yourself. It's so frustrating when you don't know where to go, where to turn.
Hmm.
There's so much misinformation out there. And I love our physicians and nurses and hospitals, but sometimes they don't even know the information is ever changing. A
Right.
community could be great several years ago, maybe not so much today. The Medicare and Medicaid regulations could be changing. Everything is constantly changing. And unless you know the ins and the outs of the programs and what to do next and what not to do, it's very overwhelming.
Right. And so for me, we talk and another thing is, and I know this is kind of where we wanted to start, is the denial and the guilt. Because people even have guilted me for leaving my mom.
I think that is the worst thing ever because, and I always equate it to when we all had, and especially you and I kind of both relate to being a single mom, but even if somebody is not a single parent, you
Hmm.
relate it to when you had children, and babies, and it was hard times, and people would always offer up their advice to you, and you're like, I didn't ask for that. And it's the same thing later in life now. And I think it's harder now, though, to be honest, because at least we knew when we had infants or toddlers, this stage is hard, but it's temporary. We'll get through it. Now we don't know what to anticipate. And it's sort of like Groundhog Day. And like you said, your quality of life is affected. Not to say you don't love your mother, but everything is affected.
Right.
So it really bothers me when other people who are not in your shoes or whoever shoes, speak that guilt out loud because it's really unfair.
It is. And because here's the thing, I love my mom, but I am 58, and if you know my story, like my sister passed away at 42,
Yeah.
her husband at 52. My dad had a massive stroke on the day we buried my brother-in-law. My brother
Sorry.
just passed away from colon cancer at 61. My sister
Oh
found out she has
gosh.
MS in at 52, and then my other sister had strokes at
Oh.
61, and that's why she's in the assisted living home. So she's 70 and she'll never get out. And I'm like, I'm
Mm.
58, and I'm like, well, okay, if those are my chances,
It's
when am I
scary.
get
I know.
And I have been a single mom since my daughter was 1. And so she was in college. So it's finally like, oh, I can go now, you know?
Right,
And then,
exactly. Wait,
and
never
then,
mind.
right. But here's the thing too, is I know sometimes my mom feels like a burden and she's totally not. It's just kind of that sandwich thing, you know? It's just figuring
Absolutely.
out, it's just figuring out how to make it work for both of us.
I I think you said two really important things. And first of all, I did not know, I knew your family dynamics, but I did not know about your sister with the MS. So, oh my gosh, my heart goes out to you. Just it's just a lot
Yeah.
of tragedy there. But the two important things that I want to touch on that you said was number one, the sandwich generation, because that is truly what we are now. This
Yep.
is the time we are coming up on what is going to be called the silver tsunami. We have never seen this many elderly seniors getting ready to either retire or need care, and the care may not be there, or we're going to be short on caregivers. So we're coming into this, generation while trying to raise our own children or have a marriage or have, work, life
Yeah.
balance, all of that. So it's very, very, very challenging. And the other thing you said about your mom feeling like she's a burden, you know, that is so heartbreaking because I have noticed across the board that seems to be the the common theme. And I think
Mhm.
it's partially because that, generation is very proud, very strong, very determined, and they don't want to rely on anybody.
Yes.
We're not, we're not a burden, like you said, but
No.
it's just that resilience that they have, and they don't want to impose anything on us. So
Right.
and then you feel bad for them feeling guilty. So there's a
Right.
lot going on.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, you
Oh,
know?
terrible. It's terrible. And I think
Well,
people don't know how to recognize it a lot of times.
and that's the thing too. So so with my mom, before I left, I started jumping through hoops to see if I could get her in the assisted living home with my sister because we thought that would be great, to have them together. And
Mm.
but I went through this whole thing, filling out the financial stuff, jumping through hoops, because I was like, how much is it going to cost? And they're like, we can't tell you till after we do the assessment. Well, the assessment is the
That's
very
crazy.
last thing. Like they couldn't even give me like you know,
Right.
this or this or this,
I
And
have a
so
big problem with that.
yeah, so we jumped through all the hoops. And listen, this was like 2 months before I was supposed to get on the road. And I can't Charlene, that's my
Mhm.
van, I can't have
Yep.
her in the winter unless I get her winterized. Do you know what I mean? So like it's a precarious
Yes.
like
That's a lot of work. I can't
road
even imagine.
because I either have to get it winterized if it starts snowing, which it did while I was there, or I have to leave so that it doesn't get that cold. Anyway,
Right.
um, so then I
People have
find
no
out,
idea the effort.
right. They don't. But then I find out that it's going to cost 5,500 a month. She only has like 53,000. She didn't think she'd live till 94. I don't think we all do.
Of course not. Of course not.
And so
Exactly. And first, oh, go ahead. Mhm.
no, and I'm just saying that, you know, so for us it was kind of like, how do you know when is the right time? And the denial of it, we were talking about that. Like, how do you know what's
I
right?
know. There's you keep bringing up such good points, and I know part of it's because you've been through it, and I,
Right.
I feel like so many people are going to watch us and nod their heads and be like, yes, 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 I'm going through this now too. I have a huge problem with them not telling you what the final cost would be. In my opinion, a good senior living community that's ethical is at least going to be able to ballpark it.
Hmm.
Even I have been doing this so long, even though I'm not a clinician, that I know with my clients, I'm not even directing them towards, taking them to a certain assisted living if I know it's going to be way out of their range. I know based on what their care needs are and their anticipatory care needs, what that's going to look like. So I just think that's super unethical, I have to say. And that makes me very sad that you had to go through that. And second of all, I mean, yes, God bless her for 94, and she, believe it or not, is better off than a lot of people because people are not preparing for this, but it is sticker shock. So there are a number of programs that people don't realize because the first misconception is, well, my insurance will pay for it. They don't. That maybe if you have a broken hip and you go to rehab, yeah, they'll pay for that, but they're not paying for it. So the other thing that I really try to help families with is to protect any potential assets, because even if, say, that money is spent down and she does need any type of Medicaid program, there's several different ones I work with. Um, they do a look back for 5 years. So if somebody can, like, if they own a house, put it in a trust, somehow protect it. So there's lots of ways that I really try to help people, and it's not, somebody said on my TikTok one time, well, you're hiding money from the government. I'm like, no,
It's
you're
your money.
protecting. Yes, you're protecting your hard-earned money. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not illegal. So, and then again, then it becomes, if I know a client is going to run out of money in 6 months, well, we're not going to look at somewhere that is private pay indefinitely. So it's just really, those things that aren't, maybe people aren't upfront with everybody. And then the other thing too, which goes into the guilt and denial, of course, it's so hard to see our parents, grandparents, any loved ones age. It's not natural to take care of our parents. It's just not, to begin with. And then we're seeing them, especially in your case, like on an everyday basis. So maybe things that, say your daughter comes home from college, might notice, might be different than what you're seeing every day. So there's a lot of different, thoughts and noticeable things to pick up on. But, especially with like disease progression, we could have a great day and then they can have a not so great day. And we think, oh, everything's okay. And we sort of let things slide a little bit longer. But the longer somebody goes, the less options they have due to various reasons, care, money. And so it's really important to start looking early and start knowing your options at least early.
Well, and I'm in the state of Minnesota, and again, people like when I talked about it, they're like, "Oh, well, you can be your PCA and you can do this." But here's the thing, it's a money thing. It's like they're like
Right.
literally you have to be a poverty level. I think it was 21,000. Like she couldn't get, I called a bunch of different places. I even called to get her a social worker because if I'm not around, and sometimes, being a daughter, it's hard, that she could have
Right.
somebody, a third party, and they wouldn't even
Right.
let me have that.
Exactly. Sorry, I lost you there for a second. I lost that here.
Oh,
I'm still
you
talking
know,
though. I'm here. I'm like, where'd it go? I was trying to pull the screen up. No, you're absolutely, who can live like that? I mean, that's horrible. And there are a lot of hoops to jump. Every state is very different. Minnesota is more challenging. They are one of the more challenging states. I have clients, even though I'm based in Ohio, I have clients all over the country, and that I work very closely not only with them but with a local contact that I trust, so they can have somebody boots on the ground. But I'm familiarized myself with all the state laws, and it is challenging. It really is.
yeah. And that's the thing. It's like people, I know they're well intentioned, and, they're writing saying, oh, do this or do that or start hiding the money. And I didn't know they look back 5 years.
They do. They do. And even if, and that's just for Medicaid, even veterans benefits, for example. And that's another thing that drives me insane. People know about VA benefits and things like that, but there's a very specific benefit for the VA. It's called the aid and attendance benefit. It is amazing. It can start at home and then transfer over to assisted living. And it's for anybody that was married to somebody that was in any, military branch. They did not have to be like active combat, on the front line, but nobody talks about it. And it's a huge amount of money they pay. But again, 5-year look back. So, I try to help prepare people for these things. I told my mom a few weeks ago, and she works in the medical field and she's very well versed, but still, when it comes to this, I said, you need to put your house in a trust right now. It's not about the kids wanting money or anything. It's just giving her the best possible care.
Right. Well, and somebody said that about the veterans. So my dad was in the army back when he was like, younger. And
Hmm.
so even if he was in it just for a while back then, is that something to look into?
Yes. So as long it had to be, there's certain dates to qualify for, but it had to be during an active war. Again, whether he saw frontline duty or not. But
Right.
I mean, most people fall into some category, and they're even extending it now because unfortunately we're seeing, as in your family, younger and younger residents or patients. So they're even doing like Gulf War benefits. But yes, I mean, again, there's a 5-year look back, but if she's already in, looking at assisted living, if she doesn't have, I mean, I know she has some assets still, but with her assets, she would actually qualify because I think and don't, it changes yearly. It's like
Yes.
$126,000 in assets or something. So so I can actually send you that information because they
Oh,
pay
that
a
would be great.
substantial amount. Absolutely. They pay a substantial amount. So, but
Well,
again, nobody talks about it.
and that's what's hard. So when I was talking to my sister, see, my sister already had health problems before because people are like, why is she in there? And my sister, other sister worked for the state, so she got to talk to people to learn like how, because she was in like when she came here, she was in like a nursing home. Like the people were very nice, but the nursing home was what you think it would be.
I know.
And so she already had benefits before. And sorry, my it froze a little bit. Okay.
That's okay. That's okay. We're good.
So that's why she got to go in there. Do you know what I mean? Like she was already
Yeah.
on disability and there
Right.
was already a history there. So with my
Right.
mom, so once I found out it would cost like 5,500, and that's basically, I mean, for her to live there, food, but just to help for medication, like she doesn't need help
Right.
getting dressed or
I know.
anything
I know.
like that. Um, that that they said, okay, she could go in there. Okay, she has like, I said, but her money won't even last a year, you know?
Exactly.
And then they're like, well, then she can apply for Medicaid. But here's the thing, then
Then she
that doesn't,
moves.
but then that doesn't mean she can stay there. They're going to move her to like a state run facility.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is something that
But
this is
they
the
didn't tell me that. They
see,
don't,
and
I mean,
that,
I
oh,
knew, I
thank
knew,
goodness
but
you
they
knew.
didn't tell me that. Yeah. You
And
know,
again, that completely falls into an unethical category. And here's the thing, I worked in assisted living communities prior to starting my own business. And I remember, families coming through and were referred through various ways, other agencies or what have you, like mine, but it wasn't done ethically. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night. No way would I say, yes, this is a great community for you when I knew that their money cannot, I mean, and I'm not even talking 6 months. It was like a month. And I'm like, how would I ever sleep at night? Why? And people do that though.
oh, they
So
did. They did it
it's
to me.
horrible.
Yes.
Exactly. And it makes me so angry. So yes, I can negotiate on behalf of my clients a lot of times, certain times, I hate to say it, but certain times of year it's easier than others. Like right now, quarter one is our busiest quarter. Everybody's sort of like that post holiday, like came home, visited, saw family. Oh my gosh, mom or dad is declining. So it's busy. But certain times of the year it's easier and there's incentives, and I can certainly help negotiate on behalf of my clients. But again, I always look for if they have to move again, and everybody's scenario is different. But if they're, in great health still, and even though we don't have a crystal ball, I'm not willing to chance it. So we're going to look at a facility that not a state run Medicaid facility, but there's other Medicaid programs. So I'm going to do whatever we can to try to not move again. That's too
Right.
much stress.
Well, and especially like I said, she's 94. And
Right,
so,
exactly.
I mean,
Nobody
you know,
knows.
yeah. And so, yeah, I thought it was unethical too, because like I said, to start the process, I had to jump through all these hoops, do all the financial stuff, do all the, the boots on the ground kind of stuff, to
Mhm.
then only find out after the assessment how much. And here's the thing too, I will tell you, when they said, oh, she got in, like they called me 2 hours, within an hour after the assessment, and said,
They
oh,
knew
great,
ahead of time.
great, she can move in, and they can be right next to each other, and she can move in anytime. And I'm like, well, but she has an apartment. Do you know what I mean? I have to like,
Right, exactly.
get all that all set.
Right.
So and then we hung up, and I didn't even realize she didn't tell me how much it was going to be. So I call her back, and I'm like, hey, you never said how much it was going to be. And then and she even said she's on the lowest tier, and it's going to be $5,420 a month. And I was like,
But for how long? And then what's considered an increase? There's a yearly increase, but what if she has to have help with the slightest thing? Where
right,
does
right.
see? And I have a huge problem with that. And I'm sorry. I wish I would have been up there with you, being your boots on the ground advocate, like I do, for my clients, because it's not okay. That is just not okay.
I didn't even know there was advocates like you,
Yeah.
honestly. I didn't know. I thought that you just have to
Yeah.
figure it out yourself. And
That's what people did.
what's the name of your company?
Yeah, so it's Premier Senior Solutions. And like I said, I'm based out of Cleveland, Ohio, but I can help anybody. The nice thing is my services are actually free for families because I am reimbursed a certain percentage by the assisted living communities. Having said that, though, and I tell everybody this, I have contracts with probably every community, but I'm very, very particular about which ones I work with. If my mom won't go there, your mom won't go there.
Right.
And like I said earlier, our building could be great several years ago. Maybe a management or ownership change could really change things. I really stay on top of these buildings well after move in. And having worked in assisted livings also and knowing the operation side and things like that, I really have my finger on the pulse. So I'm very, very picky. So, but it is a free service for families, which is nice.
Well, how did you segue from working? I know you worked in hospice, and listen, my sister, my brother-in-law, my dad, I mean, had all been through hospice. And how did you transition from all that to then starting your own?
I had worked prior to my several years in hospice. I had been in senior living and I just absolutely loved it. And I always thought I would see like some national companies that do what I do, or there was only, it was still kind of a new concept back then, maybe one in my area. And I remember thinking, these poor families, they're supposed to be having an advocate, but they're not getting the hand holding that they really need. And I kept thinking, I can do this better. But being a single mom and just being terrified, and I was like, oh, you know how it goes. So I worked in hospice for a few years, and I believe me, I love it. I have such a deep respect, and I still refer, people to hospice and other ancillary services. But it kept like just eating at me, and I'm like, I have to do this. I have to do this. And let me tell you, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, as I'm sure you can appreciate as a single mom, and
Yeah.
the guts you've had to do what you do. I mean, we literally I tried to hide a lot from my kids and my family. Like the electricity was turned off those first couple of months when I was waiting on payments. My car was repossessed. I'm like, I didn't even think I was like, I mean, it was so, but I was like, I am determined. And you know what? It's been almost 6 years and I am so glad because now I'm like, yes, this is what I was supposed to do because it's not just, well, here's a name, go look at that community. I'm like, no, 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 no. I am right in there negotiating. Every family's different. Some need more help than others. I can't even tell you how many times I've packed up my SUV if people are like, I need help, I need whatever. I will make beds in their new place, that whatever,
Right.
because
Right.
that's what the family needs,
Right.
so I feel like yes, this was the right move to do and it's been
What?
great.
And I didn't know you have triplets. You have
I do.
triplets?
I do. I have a 23-year-old son. He's out. He's doing great. Bought his own condo. And then my triplets well, they'll be 14 in March and they give me a run for my money. So two boys and one girl. So it's yeah, yeah.
Well, and it's so funny how people think that you start a business or you have a YouTube
Oh,
channel or something that you're like rich and have a
you're rolling in people are like, you vacation a lot. I'm like, listen, I live very simply. My car is paid off. I have a tiny bungalow house. I
yeah,
take weekend trips because of
yeah,
work. It's
yeah.
just but let me tell you about the times the electric was turned on, but you're
Right,
right. There's such a misconception, but I'm like, no, this was my purpose. So it
right.
every second of it.
And yeah, that's when it doesn't feel like work. And that's my thing too. I
Yes,
really want to help people. And I seem
exactly.
to attract people like you and like Dr. Galani and all these people who
Yes.
truly just want to help people, and they're really good at what they do. And it
Yeah.
involves helping people. Do you know what I mean? But that's where their heart is and their passion.
Well, yeah, and I think, well, like with you too, and I can see why you attract that because, your life is not conventional per se. Like,
No.
we're all taught to have a conventional life,
Yeah.
and that goes out the window. But you just have such a good, I feel like we're kindred souls. Like you just have such
Yeah.
a good disposition and you're just like full of, happiness in life and you embrace things. And I just wish everybody could be like that. And not to be all kumbaya and everything, but there really is truth to that.
Well, but here's the thing, what I've been through, the reason why I am like that, I think, is because of what I've been through and knowing how short life is. And,
Oh.
I was in Walmart yesterday and it was a really long line. And I heard this guy complaining from like, 10 aisles over to when we were in the thing. And then he's
You're
conversing
like,
with the guy
what do you expect?
behind me. And I'm just like, wow, like all you're doing is complaining. It's not making it any better. It's not changing the situation.
Right. exactly. The outcome is still going to be the same. I used
Right.
to get really upset because I like to be punctual and it really bothers me, and if I get flustered now, if I'm like, oh my gosh, the kids can't find a shoe or whatever, we're running late.
Yeah.
Now I know, which of course happens, but now I look at it, you know what? That was for a reason. Maybe I would have avoided an accident. Like again, life is too short. And like I said, my clients, it's just they're getting younger and younger. You see it firsthand in your family. And I just had it's still really eating at me. I had a client, a gentleman of mine 2 months ago pass away that was 60. He just had an advanced form of dementia. And I have another one right now that's 68. And I'm like, eh, you know, and this is not, to your point, life is short. This is not the life that their spouses envisioned. They thought, we'll retire, we'll travel. No, that's all gone.
Right.
So
I
we
just
we
had a
have no idea.
friend, he just passed away just on New Year's Day, New Year's
Oh
morning. I got a
gosh.
text. Yeah, here
Thank
I
you.
thought
Not even.
2024 was going to start. He's 52. He just found
Oh.
out he was fine over Thanksgiving, and then 2 weeks ago he found out he had spots on his liver. He had stomach cancer. Didn't know
I'm
2 weeks
so
ago, and then a week later he had 150
sorry.
spots on his liver, and
Oh
then
my gosh.
so that's how
With
like
no
aggressive.
symptoms.
And so here's the thing, talk about conventional and stuff. People think that, we're just kind of brainwashed because I mean, it's not our fault. It's just what we've been like trained
Exactly.
to do.
Indoctrinated, right?
Right. Yeah. And and not everybody I don't want to I was dying slow death sitting at a
Yes.
desk every
Oh my
day,
gosh.
from
That is the
9 to
perfect way to
5
say it.
being micromanaged, you
Being
know?
micromanaged for what? Your paycheck every 2 weeks and your quarter raise every year. And
Right.
I think about, and you too probably, I think about the things that I missed out on in my kid's life. And not
Mhm.
to say that I still, of course I miss out on
Right.
things still,
Yes. No,
especially being
yeah.
a business owner. I have to work around when my clients are free. So evenings, and that's fine, but it's so much easier. And I just talk about guilt, but yes, you don't want to do that forever. And
Right.
just that, like the freedom you must just to get in the, okay, time to go, where am I at this, I mean, that, and I love to travel, so I
Right.
envy that, like I said, I do little weekend, but I want the memories, I want the experiences.
Well, and that's what people I had some comments, when you're on YouTube, you have to or so any social
Oh,
media,
I
you
have
know,
gotten yelled at.
and I get like some I mean, this happened a couple times. It's like, but she's your mom. You have to take care of her. Stay at home and take care of her. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. I feel guilty
Right.
if I don't, or I mean, they're trying to make me, and guilt is such a
Yes.
wasted emotion. It's such a,
Oh,
it doesn't,
such a wasted
I,
emotion, regret,
again,
guilt,
it
get
doesn't
rid of
do
it, yeah.
anybody any good.
No.
And then I don't wanna feel resentment by not going and living my life.
Exactly. Exactly. Because again, that's affecting your quality of life. And it's so funny that you're talking about guilt. I was just thinking about resentment and guilt and how I try not to have any in life because it is a waste of time.
Right,
And it's very, like I said, it's very easy for people to judge when they're not in your shoes. They don't know what they would do in their situation. Everybody is different.
right.
Um, so yeah, you really have to take each day and it's a blessing and just run with it and
Yep,
do the best you can.
yep. Well, this is a good first start because
I
like I
love
said,
it.
I'm gonna have you I mean, this is so important. And again, I somehow fell into this niche. Well, it's adventures over 50. So I have a lot of people,
Yes.
like in this age group who, like I said, I just went through this and I don't know a lot. And so I want to get people who do know, experts about stuff. I have
Yeah.
a friend, Ron, who's a probate attorney, you know?
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
People
so,
do not understand that. That's very tricky.
yeah. And I worked in probate just for a small amount of time, but even in that amount of
That's
time,
right, you did. Okay.
and I have a living will. After I worked in it for a little bit, I'm like, boy, because I'm a single mom. You don't want to
Same
die
thing.
intestate, Yeah.
I
And
made a will.
yeah, a lot of people don't think about that stuff, or they think it's going to automatically go to their next of kin.
Oh gosh. And no, it's held up in probate. So I love that
Yep.
you're having, your friend on. And I did the same thing. Again, it was triggered by being a single mom.
Yep.
Several years ago, I did my will just because I thought, God forbid something happens.
Yep.
I want my children to not be homeless. I
Right.
want at least them
Yep.
to stay in the house or, access the bank account or
Well, and
whatever.
my daughter was underage. And so I
Mhm.
didn't realize until I did it, because I had a
Yes.
home at the time that I owned, that I had to put somebody like as her guardian to
Yes.
take it over for her. Never knew. Like,
Exactly.
you can't take a house when she's 12,
Right. We're like,
Never,
why not? I know.
never
Luckily,
thought of
my
that.
son is 23, so he could step in. But
Right,
if I didn't have him for the younger ones, absolutely.
right.
So I love that you're having him on. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I want to come on a van life adventure with you. I'm like so motivated by you. I'm like, forget just weekend
On my
trips.
way back home, I'll come visit you in Ohio.
I would love that. I know. Because let me tell you, these winters, you have it worse up there, but this
Yeah,
gray and oh, I
I
can't take it
know.
much more. I can't.
Well, I just got the notice on Zoom. What happened the other night, I tried to have one that gave me a 10-minute notice, and then we kept talking and it just cut us off. So I got the 10-minute notice because that's all it gives you.
Now we're
So,
down to 5 minutes. So yeah. Yeah,
but
exactly. This has
yeah,
been awesome.
so next time, I'll have
Yeah,
people put comments down below
yeah,
because I'm gonna
that
put
would
this
be
up on my
great.
YouTube channel, and to see like what they want to talk about or questions they have, and we'll
Yeah.
just like keep this rolling, and
Yeah, I love it.
and
I'm gonna share it with everybody too. So yes,
great.
I love it.
Yeah, good. We can get the
Yeah,
conversation going and get help to
absolutely.
people who don't know, like
I
me.
think that, and I think that's just like you said, just get the conversation going. It opens
Yep.
up the floodgates and it's
Yep.
amazing
Yeah.
how everybody comes together. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Tracy. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you. And so I'm going to put
You're
all of
welcome.
Jenny's, her social media and all the other stuff, good stuff down below. And
Yeah.
then, Jenny, we will be talking soon again. All right.
Sounds good. You have a great
Okay.
day. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye bye.